My husband had a second family, and everyone knew but me. When I took our twin grandkids to his retirement party, the whole family went white as a sheet. I had arrived 2 hours early from my bridge club. I'd baked his favorite carrot cake and bought a bottle of champagne. I wanted to surprise Harold, my husband of 42 years. When I opened the front door, the living room was empty. From the home office, I heard the low voice of my sister-in-law, Patricia. "The other boy needs money for summer camp. It's $1,500. You can't ignore this." My brother-in-law, Robert, sighed heavily. "How are we going to explain this to Helen? What if she finds out?" "Find out?" Patricia's voice was dripping with contempt. "They've been married for 42 years. Is she going to leave him now? The grandkids are already 15. Is she really going to throw everything away over this?" I stood frozen outside that door, and the cake slipped from my hands. The cream cheese frosting and walnuts splattered across the floor like my shattered heart. But before we get into the story, please support me by liking and subscribing right now. I also want to say hi. Leave your name, city, and the word gift in the comments. I want to know where you're listening from, even if it's from far away. That night, Harold came home as if nothing had happened. He kissed my forehead and handed me a little blue Tiffany box. "Happy 42nd anniversary, honey." I stared at that smile I knew so well and remembered what I had heard earlier. I felt my stomach turn. His entire family knew. Everyone except the idiot standing in front of him. He had another family, another son, and I was the only one in the dark. At 5:30 in the morning, my alarm went off. I reached out, eyes still closed, and hit the snooze button, staying in bed for 5 more minutes. Those 5 minutes were the only time of the day I felt complete. For 5 minutes, I wasn't a wife, wasn't a grandmother, wasn't a sister-in-law, just Helen. At 6, I got up and got ready in silence. The woman in the mirror was 63. There were deep lines around my eyes and mouth, but my skin was still well kept thanks to the creams I used religiously. In the master bedroom, Harold was still sleeping peacefully. He was lying on his back, snoring lightly. The dawn light filtered through the blinds, illuminating his gray hair. That face still had its charm, even with the sagging cheeks and wrinkled neck. We had been married for 42 years. He had retired from the CPA firm last year. We were supposed to be traveling, enjoying the years we had left. I watched him for a moment, then went to check on the twins. Our grandkids, Tyler and Madison, were staying with us while our daughter Jennifer was touring Europe with the symphony orchestra. The 15-year-olds were still sound asleep in the basement bedroom. Their young faces looked so innocent. My heart squeezed seeing them there. I walked down the stairs slowly and kissed their foreheads gently. In the kitchen, Patricia was already making pancakes. She had slept on the pull-out couch to help with the party prep. The butter was sizzling in the skillet, and the smell of coffee filled the air. "Good morning, Helen," she said, barely looking at me. "Can you wake the kids? They have tennis lessons at 9. Her tone was normal, but I felt that strange discomfort I always felt around her. Patricia was always like that, polite but cold, always keeping her distance. In all these years, we never fought openly, but we were never close either. Something always felt fake between us, and now I understood why. At 7:30, everyone was seated at the breakfast table. Harold was reading the Wall Street Journal on his iPad. Robert was reading the local paper. The twins were chattering about the weekend tennis tournament. "Grandpa, are you going to come watch our match on Saturday?" Tyler asked with his mouth full of pancakes. Harold looked over his glasses and smiled apologetically. "Sorry, champ. Grandpa has some appointments already set up. I promised to go to the next one." "You always say that," Madison pouted, scrolling on her phone. "It's true." Harold ruffled her hair. "How about I take you both to dinner at the steakhouse on Thursday? The one with that dessert you love." "Really?" They both perked up immediately. I watched the scene, and that strange feeling grew in my chest. Harold was a good grandfather, at least on the surface, but in the last few months, his absences had become more frequent. Church meetings, doctor's appointments, lunches with old colleagues, there was always an excuse. "Honey, you look pale," Harold said suddenly, staring at me. "Maybe just tired," I replied, pushing the pancakes around my plate. "Don't overdo it with this party. Patricia and Robert can handle everything." Harold poured more coffee into my mug. "You worked your whole life. Now it's time to relax." He had no idea. I had worked for 30 years as a nurse at the county hospital. I had a decent salary, a reasonable pension. When I retired 5 years ago, Patricia suggested I stay home and enjoy it. She said Harold and she could handle the family finances. I didn't totally agree. I kept managing my own accounts. Because of that, the relationship with Harold's family was always a bit tense. After taking the twins to tennis practice, I went back home and started tidying up the living room. That was when I found a crumpled receipt in Harold's desk drawer. Prenatal vitamins. Bought 3 weeks ago at a pharmacy on the other side of town. My heart raced. Harold was 68. Why on earth would he be buying prenatal vitamins? My hands shook holding that piece of paper. I remembered last month when he said he was spending the weekend at a spiritual retreat with friends from church. When he came back, a pacifier fell out of his jacket pocket. He said a friend asked him to buy it because the store near the guy's house was closed. At the time, it seemed odd, but I accepted the explanation. Now, all the pieces were starting to fit together, but I needed proof, concrete proof that couldn't be denied or explained away. On Monday, I called the phone carrier saying I had forgotten the account password. Since the main line was in my name, one of the few things Harold hadn't managed to transfer, I got access to the call history for the last 6 months. The same number appeared almost every day. The calls weren't long, but they were regular, always between 9 in the morning and 10 at night. I wrote down the number and searched on social media. I found a Facebook profile. The photo was of a woman from the back, wavy blonde hair. The name was Linda Morrison. The profile was private, but the cover photo showed 2 hands intertwined. The man was wearing a watch on his wrist, a vintage Seiko I had given Harold for our 30th anniversary myself. I sat there in the phone company's office, feeling the cold air conditioning on my skin, but I was sweating. 42 years of marriage, 2 grown children, 4 grandkids. What I thought was a solid life was a gigantic lie. My cell phone rang. It was Harold. "Honey, what do you want for dinner?" "I'm thinking of grabbing Thai food on the way home." His voice was as affectionate as ever. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. I wanted to ask who that woman was, who that child was, how long this had been going on, if the whole family knew. But in the end, all I managed to say was, "Thai is fine. I have a headache, that's all." I hung up the phone and just sat there. I needed time. I needed to plan. I needed to think about what to do. While driving home, I couldn't hold back the tears, a silent cry that blurred my vision. I had to pull the car over twice. I remembered our wedding day. Harold was 26, I was 21. He promised to love me until death did us part. I remembered when Jennifer was born, and he cried with joy in the delivery room. I remembered every birthday, every Christmas, every moment I thought was real. Was it all a lie? The tenderness, the promises, the years together? Or maybe he loved both. Maybe he wanted 2 families. I wiped the tears away with anger. No, this couldn't stay like this. I needed to know the whole truth. Only then would I make a decision. In the days that followed, I acted like everything was normal. I took care of the grandkids, cooked meals, went to my yoga classes. But I started watching every move, every expression, every word. Patricia would look away when she answered her cell phone near me. Robert looked at me with a mix of pity and guilt. Harold's phone was always face down. On Friday night, while we were watching TV, his phone rang. He looked at the screen and declined the call quickly. "Who was it?" I asked casually, without taking my eyes off the television. "Telemarketers," Harold said. "These guys won't stop calling about car warranties. You should block the number." "Good idea." He stood up. "I'm gonna take a shower." He left the phone on the coffee table. I looked at that black device like it was a venomous snake. I knew the passcode. Harold used Jennifer's birth date for everything. I could pick up the phone right then and see Linda's messages, but I didn't. Not out of fear, but because I wasn't ready to face what I'd find. On Saturday morning, I said I was meeting my friends from the bridge club. In reality, I drove to an address in Riverside that I had found linked to that phone number. It was a nice residential complex with well-kept gardens. I parked across the street and waited. I didn't know what I expected to find. Maybe confirmation, maybe nothing. Around 10 in the morning, I saw Harold's gray Buick pull into the parking lot. My stomach churned. In the passenger seat was a woman. Blonde hair, beautiful face even in profile. She looked to be in her early 40s. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my nails left marks on my palms. It hurt, but not as much as the pain I felt in my chest. I watched the car disappear between the buildings. Then I started the engine and drove away. No tears, no screaming. A strange calm took over me. It was time to act, but not yet. Not just yet. Friends, every story I tell you is released every day, but YouTube will only show them to you if you smash that red subscribe button. Please do it right now while I'm talking. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and you'll never miss a story. Did you do it? Thank you. The day before Harold's retirement party, I looked for a divorce attorney. I consulted about asset division, alimony, everything. After hearing my story, the lawyer advised me to gather evidence first. What your husband did constitutes marital infidelity and dissipation of assets. That counts for a lot in the division of property and financial matters, she explained. I need solid proof, I said. The more documentation you have, the better your position will be. Bank records, photos, messages, witnesses. After leaving the law firm, I went to the bank. I transferred half the money from our joint account to a new account just for me. It was money I had also helped save during all those years working. That night, I drove to my parents' house. They had passed away 10 years ago, but my younger brother Stephen still lived in the old family home. I didn't tell him the whole truth. I just said I was thinking about some life changes. "Helen, are you okay?" Stephen asked, pouring tea. "You seem worried. If I separated from Harold, would you support me?" He almost dropped the cup. "Separate? After 42 years? What happened? Did he hurt you?" "Not physically," I replied, holding the hot cup between my hands. "But he hurt me in other ways." I didn't say anything else. Stephen hugged me. "You will always have my support, sis. Always." That night, I slept in the guest room at Stephen's house, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling I had known since I was a child. I remembered when I was young. Dad always used to say, "Helen, when you choose a husband, choose someone honest." I thought Harold was honest. Now I discovered he was honest with a lot of people, just not with me. The next day, the day of the party, I took the afternoon off from preparations. I bought a cake and champagne. I don't even know why I bought them. Maybe to give the marriage a dignified ending. Then I went home early and heard that conversation in the office. Patricia's voice discussing money for the other boys' summer camp. All the doubts, all the suspicions were confirmed. The instant the cake hit the floor, I felt my world collapse too. But I didn't go in to confront them. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood silently outside, listening. "I'll take care of Helen," I heard Harold's voice. He was there too. "You can't hide this forever," Robert said. "We'll hide it as long as we can," Patricia replied firmly. "The boy is 9 years old now. He needs things. We can't simply ignore it." "I know," Harold sighed. "Linda is pressuring me. She wants me to take more responsibility." I turned and walked slowly out the front door. When I got to the sidewalk, the sun was bright. I stood under that hot sun, but my whole body felt frozen. That was it. Another family, another woman, a 9-year-old son. His whole family knew. Patricia, Robert, probably even his kids. I was the only idiot who knew nothing. At night, Harold came home with the Tiffany box and sweet words. I looked at him and felt disgusted. That man, that face, those hands that held me also held another woman. He said, "I love you" to me, and said the same to her. I accepted the gift and thanked him. Then I took a long shower. Under the hot water, I cried in silence. After the shower, I sat in front of the bathroom mirror. I stared at my own reflection. 63 years old, 2 grown children, 4 grandkids, a nursing career, and a marriage that was a lie. But this lie was about to end. It wouldn't be easy, but it had to happen. I opened the desk drawer in my bedroom and took out a new notebook. I started writing a plan. Step 1, gather all possible evidence. Step 2, ensure my financial security. Step 3, consult the lawyer again. Step 4, confront. But first of all, I needed to protect my grandkids. Tyler and Madison had nothing to do with this. They couldn't be hurt by their grandfather's betrayal. When Harold came into the room, I was already lying with my back to the door. "Are you asleep, honey?" he asked softly. "Almost," I lied. He lay down and put his arm around my waist. My body went rigid, but I didn't push him away. "I'm looking forward to the party tomorrow," he murmured. 40 years working, finally free. "Yeah," I said, finally free. But I was thinking of another kind of freedom, the freedom to live without lies. Harold's eyes went wide in the darkness. "I remembered when we were young. He used to pick me up from nursing school every day. I remembered the proposal on the mountaintop, his hands shaking with nervousness. I remembered Jennifer's birth, then our son Thomas. Every birthday, every life milestone. Those beautiful memories were now like knives cutting my heart. One by one, they hurt, but I couldn't fall apart. For my children, for my grandkids, for myself, I needed to be strong. The next day, the retirement party happened as planned. I smiled. I greeted the guests. I served cake and champagne. No one noticed anything was wrong. I watched Harold receiving congratulations, laughing with old colleagues, making speeches about the good old days. I watched Patricia and Robert circling the party, serving drinks, taking photos, everyone playing the role of the perfect family. Everyone except me, knowing the full truth. When the last guests left, Harold hugged me in the kitchen. It was a wonderful party. Thank you for organizing everything. You're welcome, I replied, pulling away to wash the glasses. You look tired. Why don't you go rest? Patricia and I will finish cleaning up. All right? I went upstairs and locked the bedroom door. I called my old colleague Nancy, who had worked with me at the hospital. Nancy, do you know a reliable private investigator? There was a pause. Helen, what's going on? I can't explain right now. I just need someone discreet and good at what they do. I do know someone. I'll text you the contact. 3 days later, I met the investigator at a coffee shop downtown. I showed him Linda's number, the address in Riverside, the call dates. I want to know everything, I said. How long they've been together, if they have kids, where they live, how much he spends on them. It'll take about a week, the investigator said, and it comes with a cost. Money isn't a problem. I paid with a check from my personal account. No one needed to know. A week later, I received the report. Linda Morrison, 44 years old, works as an executive assistant, met Harold 10 years ago at an accounting seminar. They started a relationship. 9 years ago, she gave birth to a boy named David. Harold bought a house for her in Riverside, put in her name. He pays an allowance of $3,000 a month. The child goes to a private school that costs $15,000 a year. The report included photos, Linda with the boy, Harold carrying the boy on his back, the three of them together at a park. In the photos, Harold was smiling, a smile I hadn't seen in a long time. He wasn't stressed. He wasn't worried about bills or health. He was just dedicating his time and his smiles to another family. I stared at the photos until my vision blurred. When pain hits a certain point, you stop feeling. I kept reading. Linda's social media profile was blocked to me, but the investigator had gotten screenshots. There were photos of Harold with David on the boy's birthday, photos of the three on trips, a photo of Harold cooking in the kitchen of their house. The captions were always affectionate. My love cooking. Our little family. Perfect day with my loves. I remembered that when I posted something on Facebook, Harold rarely liked or commented. He said he didn't like social media. At the end of the report, there were bank statements. Harold made regular transfers to Linda. The amounts varied between $2,000 and $5,000 a month. There were also large expenses. A new car for Linda last year, home renovations, trips. I did the math. In 10 years, Harold had spent over $500,000 on the other family, and he always said we needed to save, that we couldn't travel much because the retirement fund wasn't that great, that we needed to cut costs. I closed the report and sat in the dark of my bedroom. Outside, the city lights twinkled. Each lit window represented a family. I had a family too. Only now I realized it had been broken for a long time. On the day Harold came back from a supposed church meeting, I prepared a fancy dinner. Roast beef, potatoes, the salad he liked. The twins were happy, talking about school. Harold brought me flowers, red roses. I thought of you today, he said, handing me the bouquet. Thank you, I replied, putting the flowers in a vase. They're beautiful. You deserve it, he smiled, for being so wonderful. We sat down to eat. Harold talked about the church meeting, about the plans for the hall renovation. I listened to everything. Was Linda at that meeting too? Did he kiss her before coming home? At night, after the twins went to sleep, I was in the office organizing papers. Harold came in. You've been working a lot, honey. He came up from behind and put his hands on my shoulders. My body went tense. Is everything okay? Are you sure? You seem different these days. Just tired, I lied, pulling away. Lots to do. Harold stared at me. There was something in his eyes. Guilt? Fear? For a moment I thought he was going to confess, but in the end he just said, Get some rest. I'll take the twins out for dinner tomorrow, give you a break. If you want to know how this story ends and discover many others, hit the red subscribe button. It's free and helps me a lot. I knew he wouldn't rest. He wanted 2 families, 2 women, 2 sets of kids. He was satisfied with this situation. Why change? But I would change everything. From that day on, I started preparing secretly. I hid copies of all important documents: marriage license, bank statements, property deeds, the investigator's report, in a safe deposit box at the bank. I made copies of the car and house keys. I organized my personal things discreetly. I photographed jewelry, documents, everything I might need. No one noticed anything strange. A week later, Harold said Linda's son, he didn't say that, of course, he invented another excuse, was sick and he needed to help a friend. He spent 3 days away. Patricia let something slip on the phone that I overheard. Poor little boy. I hope he gets better soon. When Harold came back, I smiled and packed his things. Honey, I said to the twins, how about we go on a trip? Just the 3 of us? Where to, Grandma? Madison asked excitedly. To Florida, to visit Disney World. You guys always wanted to go. Really? When? Tyler jumped up. Next week. Surprise for you guys. I took one last look at that house where I lived for 40 years. With the grandkids. I left without looking back. I turned off my cell phone, cut all communication. I left just a note on the kitchen table. Harold, I took the twins on a trip. We'll be back when I decide. Do not try to find us. 3 hours later, Harold called Patricia in desperation. But I was already at Orlando International Airport with 2 tickets in hand. The twins beside me, excited about the adventure. When the plane took off, Tyler and Madison were glued to the window watching the clouds. I sat between them. My heart was at peace for the first time in months. Grandma, how long are we staying? Madison asked. As long as you want, I replied. What about Grandpa? Isn't he coming? Grandpa is busy, but isn't having Grandma enough? It is, they both said together. I smiled. In the middle of the smile, my eyes filled with tears. I remembered the photos in the investigator's report. Harold with David at an amusement park. Now it was my turn to take my grandkids to a place without lies. When we landed in Orlando, it was already night. I took the kids to the hotel I had booked. It was near the parks, so we could go first thing the next morning. After tucking the twins in, I opened my new cell phone with a new SIM card. On the old phone, I had left just one contact before throwing it away. The lawyer. Mrs. Martinez. We arrived. Great, Helen. Follow the plan. Call me if you need anything. I put the phone down and went to the room's balcony. The Florida night was hot and humid. The breeze felt nice on my face. I took a deep breath. I savored the freedom I hadn't felt in a long time. Meanwhile, back home, everything was chaos. Harold arrived at 8 at night. He had just left Linda's house, where he had spent the afternoon. Tired, but calm. He thought he had balanced everything perfectly. When he opened the door, the house was dark and silent. Helen? Kids? He shouted. No one answered. He turned on the lights. The living room was too tidy. On the table, a piece of paper with my handwriting. He read it once, twice, 3 times. The words didn't change. I took the twins and left. Didn't say where. Didn't say when I'd return. Harold panicked. He called my cell phone. Off. He called Stephen, my brother. Is she there? Who? Helen. She disappeared with the twins. Disappeared? Stephen's voice was too calm. Or left. Stephen, this is serious. I need to find her. Where is she? I don't know, and if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. Click. Stephen hung up. Harold stood looking at the phone. He called Patricia and Robert. Come over now. Helen is gone. Half an hour later, the 3 were sitting in the living room. Patricia was pale. Robert was pacing back and forth. What did you do, Harold? Patricia asked. Nothing. I didn't do anything. She found out, Robert said quietly. She has to have found out. There's no other explanation. Harold sat on the sofa and put his head in his hands. For 10 years, he had been careful. He thought he was controlling everything perfectly. Helen was obedient. Linda was understanding. There was no problem on either side. He even thought that when David got a little older, he would find a way for Helen to accept the situation gradually. Maybe introduce Linda as a family friend. Now everything had crumbled. His cell phone rang. Linda. Tearful voice. Harold, David is asking for you. When are you coming? I don't know, Linda. I have an emergency here. Emergency? What kind of emergency? Helen left with the grandkids. I don't know where they are. There was silence on the other end. Linda knew Harold was married, but she never imagined the wife would simply vanish. What are you going to do? Find her. I need to find her. He hung up the phone and stared at the empty house. For 40 years that place had been welcoming. It had children's laughter, the smell of homemade food, Helen's constant presence. Now it was empty. He remembered the last look Helen had given me the morning she left. Too calm. It wasn't calm. It was surrender after despair. Harold grabbed the car keys. "Where are you going?" Patricia asked. "To look for my wife." "But where? You have no idea where she is." "Then I'll start with the obvious places." He drove to Stephen's house, banged on the door until Helen's brother answered. "Where is she, Stephen?" "I already told you. I don't know." "You're lying. You two were always close. And you've been married to my sister for 42 years. You should have thought about that before." Stephen stopped, shook his head. "Before what?" Harold asked, but he already knew the answer. "She knows, doesn't she? She found out about Linda. She found out about Linda, about David, about all of you hiding this from her like she was an idiot." Stephen spat the words out. "My sister deserved better, deserves better." He slammed the door in Harold's face. Harold went back to the car and sat there in the dark. His heart was frozen. Helen knew everything. How long? What exactly had she found out? Where had she gone? He called Jennifer, our daughter, who was in Germany with the orchestra. "Dad, it's 3 a.m. here. Is your mother there?" "Mom? No, why?" "She left. Took Tyler and Madison. I don't know where they are." Jennifer was silent for a moment. "Did she leave you?" "I don't know. She didn't make it clear, just said she left and doesn't want to be found." "Dad, what did you do?" Jennifer's voice was cold. "Why are you asking me that? I didn't do anything." "Then why would she run away after 42 years? Harold had no answer. He hung up and drove aimlessly through the city. He passed the store where we bought groceries together, the hospital where Helen had worked, the church where we got married. Everything was closed, dark, empty. The next morning, he hired a private investigator, the same one I had hired, ironically. "I need to find my wife," Harold said, desperate. "She left with our grandkids yesterday." "Sir, your wife disappeared less than 24 hours ago. The police won't consider this a missing persons case." "That's why I'm here. Money isn't a problem. I need to find her. Send me her details." Harold sent everything. Social security number, physical description, photo, license plate. Only then did he realize how much he didn't know about Helen. He didn't know who her closest friends were. He didn't know where she liked to go when she was sad. He didn't know her dreams, her fears, her plans. After 42 years of marriage, I realized he had lived with a stranger. At 3 a.m, the investigator texted, "There was a credit card transaction by your wife at the airport yesterday afternoon. 3 tickets to Miami." "Miami!" Harold woke up completely. "She went to Miami with the kids. I'll check hotels in the area." But hours later, another message arrived. "Sir, I discovered your wife made a reservation in Miami, but bought tickets to Orlando." Orlando, not Miami. Harold was confused. Why would Helen do that? Then he understood. She had left a false trail. She wanted him to look in the wrong place. He immediately booked a flight to Orlando. But upon arriving there, he discovered there were hundreds of hotels, thousands of places Helen could be. He spent 3 days searching, visited parks, hotels, restaurants. Nothing. On the 4th day, he had to go back. Linda was calling insistently. David had a fever. "I need you here," Linda was crying on the phone. "You always put that family before ours." "Linda, it's not like that." "Yes, it is. Your wife disappears and you spend days looking for her. David is sick and you barely call." She was right. Harold had lived in 2 worlds for 10 years, trying to spin 2 plates. Now both were crashing down. He went back home and found it empty and silent. No Helen. No twins. Only the echo of his footsteps. For the first time in decades, Harold regretted it. He was wrong. Very wrong. He thought he could have 2 families, thought he could keep everyone happy. Now he had no one. He grabbed his cell phone and texted my old number, even knowing it was disconnected. "Helen, forgive me, please. Where are you? Let me see the grandkids. Let me explain." The message wasn't delivered. The number didn't exist anymore. He covered his face with his hands, and for the first time in years, Harold wept. Meanwhile, in Florida, life was different. Tyler and Madison adapted quickly. We spent days at the parks, at the beaches, eating ice cream. At night, we watched movies in the hotel room. "Grandma, can we live here?" Madison asked one day. "In Florida? I don't know. Anywhere. Just the three of us." My heart squeezed. "Don't you guys miss Grandpa?" Tyler got quiet. "Sometimes. But I like being here with you. You seem happier." Was it that obvious? I hugged them both. "Let's see what the future brings, okay?" While the kids slept, I called Mrs. Martinez. "How are things over there?" "Harold was served the divorce papers today. He was in shock." "Did he agree?" "Hasn't responded yet. He has 30 days. "And the custody of the grandkids?" "Jennifer, your daughter, gave authorization for you to keep them during her tour. Legally, you're safe. Thank you." I hung up and went to the balcony. The warm Florida breeze moved my hair. I looked at the starry sky. For the first time in months, I felt hope. I didn't know what would come next, but I knew I had made the right decision. 3 weeks later, we returned. Not to the house I shared with Harold, but to an apartment I rented near Stephen. 2 bedrooms, view of the park. A new beginning. Harold tried to see me, showed up at the door several times. "Helen, we need to talk. Talk to my lawyer." "Please, let me explain." "There is nothing to explain. 42 years of marriage, 10 years of lies, a secret son. It's all very clear." Harold's face went white. You know about David?" "I know everything, Harold. Linda, the money you spent, the vacations you took together while telling me you were on spiritual retreats. Everything." I closed the door. I heard him on the other side crying, but I didn't open it. I couldn't anymore. The following weeks were hard. Jennifer came back from Europe and was devastated by the news. "Dad has another son? How did I not know?" "No one knew, sweetie, except his family. Patricia, Robert, they all hid it from me." "Mom, I'm so sorry. It wasn't your fault." The divorce moved quickly. Harold tried to argue he needed the money to support David. "He is my son too," he told the judge. "That is your problem, Mr. Miller," the judge replied. "Mrs. Miller has no obligation to support a child you had out of wedlock." I received half the assets. The house was sold and we split the profit. I received part of Harold's 401k, and most importantly, I kept my dignity. 2 months after the divorce, I started volunteering at a children's hospital. I didn't need the money, but I needed purpose. The kids made me smile, made me remember there was still goodness in the world. One day, I met Nancy, my old colleague, in the hospital corridor. "Helen, you look beautiful." "Thank you. I feel lighter." "Divorced and happy then?" "Divorced and free," I corrected. "There is a difference." I started going out more. Dinners with Stephen, painting classes, walks in the park with the grandkids, short trips to visit friends. Tyler and Madison adapted well. Jennifer got shared custody with Harold, but the twins lived mainly with me. We saw Harold once a month for supervised visits. It was weird at first, seeing the man with whom I shared a life for so long as a stranger, but gradually it got easier. One day, 6 months after the divorce, Harold showed up at my apartment, not to beg or fight, just to talk. "Can I come in?" I hesitated, but let him. We sat in the living room. He looked around. "You made a beautiful home here." "Thank you." "Helen, He stopped. "I ruined everything." "Yes, you did. Linda and I broke up. She moved back to Texas with David." "I'm sorry for David," I said, and it was true. The child wasn't to blame. "Me too." Harold looked at his hands. "I thought I could have everything, both families. I thought I was making everyone happy, but I was just being selfish. At least you recognize that now." "Too late?" "Too late for us, yes, but not too late for you to be a good father to David. To be honest from here on out." Harold nodded. There were tears in his eyes. "You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I threw it all away." "Don't dump self-pity on me, Harold. Take responsibility and be better." He stood up to leave. At the door, he turned back. "You're going to be happy, Helen. You deserve it." "I'm already happy," I replied. And it was true. After he left, I sat on the balcony with a cup of tea. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. I thought about the journey, the pain of discovery, the fear of leaving, the courage to start over. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Sometimes in life, the only way out is through the pain. You can't go around it. You have to go through it. And on the other side, there is light. A year later, I met Arthur, widower, 65 years old, retired professor. We met in an art history class. We started having coffee after class, then occasional dinners. Nothing serious, just company. "You have a beautiful smile," he said one day. "When you really smile, it lights up the room." "Thank you," I blushed. It took me a long time to find that smile again. "Divorce? Worse. Betrayal." "Ah," he understood. "My wife didn't cheat on me, but I understand loss. I understand starting over. We didn't rush. We just let the friendship grow naturally. Sometimes Tyler and Madison went out with us. Arthur was kind to them, patient. 18 months after the divorce, I was sitting in the park watching Tyler and Madison play frisbee. My cell phone rang. It was Jennifer. "Mom, I have news." "What?" "Dad is engaged to a woman he met in his support group." I processed the information. I waited to feel something, anger, jealousy, hurt, but I just felt nothing. "Good for him," I said sincerely. "Really?" "Really. Everyone deserves to be happy. Even Harold, as long as he's honest this time." "You are amazing, Mom. I don't know if I could be so balanced." "It takes time, honey. And therapy. Lots of therapy." We laughed together. A few months later, Arthur asked me to be his girlfriend officially. "Helen, I know you've been through a lot. I don't want to rush anything, but I would like to know if you accept being my girlfriend. For real." I looked at that gentle man, his kind eyes, his honest smile. "Yes," I replied. "I accept." It wasn't a fairy tale romance. We were too old for that. But it was real. It was honest. It was built on mutual respect and genuine companionship. On my 65th birthday, Arthur organized a surprise party. Stephen was there, Jennifer and her kids, Tyler and Madison, Nancy and other friends. Even Harold showed up, just to say a quick hello and leave. "To Helen," Arthur raised his glass, "a woman who showed that it is never too late to start over, who proved that strength isn't never falling, but always getting back up." Everyone clapped. I looked around the room. Smiling faces, people who truly loved me. A new life I had built from the ashes of the old one. Yes, I had lost 42 years in a marriage based on lies, but I gained something more precious, myself back. I learned that age doesn't matter. 63, 65, 70. There is always time to start over. There is always time to choose dignity over convenience. There is always time to seek real happiness instead of fake comfort. The path wasn't easy. There were nights of crying, days of doubt, moments when I almost gave up, but every step was worth it. Today, I wake up in the morning and I don't need those extra 3 minutes in bed to feel complete. I wake up complete. I wake up free. I wake up happy. And that, I discovered, is all I ever needed. Harold taught me a valuable lesson, even without meaning to. He taught me that love isn't enough if it doesn't come with honesty, respect, and integrity. He taught me that family isn't always who shares your blood, but who stands by your side in the hard times. He taught me that it is never too late to stand up for yourself. Thank you, Harold, for breaking my heart. Because in the process of mending it, I discovered I am much stronger than I ever imagined. As the sun sets on another day, I sit on the balcony of my apartment. Arthur is by my side. Tyler and Madison are in the living room watching a movie. This is my kingdom now. Small, but mine. Real, not an illusion. Built with dignity, not with lies. And the walls, they are made of self-respect. And the crown, it is made of freedom. If you like this story, click subscribe and tell me in the comments which part impressed you the most. There's more tomorrow. See you there.